Daniel never thought he would stand in the same room as an alien queen, let alone be the one asked to treat her wounds. He was an engineer, not a doctor. He fixed broken machines, repaired cracked hulls, and cleaned filters when they clogged. He had joined the outpost at the edge of the human-alien border to avoid dangerous work. It was supposed to be a quiet posting. But fate had other plans. The outpost had been built after a shaky peace treaty between humans and the insectoid race, called the Valorians. Both sides agreed to share this small station as a neutral ground where medical teams could treat soldiers, explorers, and even civilians caught in border troubles. It was meant to show cooperation. In reality, most humans and Valorians kept their distance, exchanging only cold nods when forced to pass each other in the halls. Daniel usually kept to his workshop, far from the alien wings of the outpost. But that day alarms rang through the corridors. A Valorian royal shuttle had arrived and whispers ran among the staff. The Queen herself had been injured during an inspection of her fleets. The station's alien doctors were delayed and the Queen's guards were in panic. A wound left untreated could bring shame and risk to their leader. In desperation, the outpost commander looked around for anyone with medical clearance. Daniel had taken a first aid course years ago, enough to qualify him as basic certified. That was how a nervous human engineer ended up standing beside the bed of Queen Valara of the Valorians. She was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Her body was tall and slender, covered in a hard but elegant exoskeleton that gleamed faintly in the sterile light. Her many eyes reflected both sharp intelligence and hidden exhaustion. Decorative golden markings traced across her armor-like body, glowing faintly, symbols of her royal status. She lay against the medical slab, one clawed arm pressing over, her side where green blood seeped slowly. Her guards stood like statues, towering insectoid warriors with spears that hummed with energy. They did not trust him. Their antennae twitched in suspicion as Daniel fumbled with the tray of medical tools. Every movement felt heavy, watched, judged. The commander whispered to him before retreating. Just clean the wound. Stop the bleeding until her own healers arrive. Do not do anything more. Easier said than done, Daniel thought. He swallowed hard, forcing his hands not to shake. He carefully poured disinfectant onto a sterile cloth, his eyes flicking to the Queen's face. She did not speak, but her many eyes followed him closely. It was like standing under a microscope, every mistake magnified. I'm just going to clean the wound, Daniel said softly, unsure if she understood human speech. Some of the Valorians did, though their accents were strange. To his surprise, she clicked her mandibles lightly, then spoke in a deep but calm tone. Do it. That one word both steadied and terrified him. He bent closer, wiping away the green blood. The smell was sharp, like iron mixed with citrus. The cut itself was not deep, but it ran dangerously close to the glowing golden markings that spread across her side. Daniel assumed they were decoration, maybe natural patterns. He did not know the meaning behind them. He cleaned slowly, carefully, breathing out through his nose to stay calm. The guards behind him did not move, but he could feel their tension. One wrong step and they might strike. Then it happened. His hand, sweaty with nerves, slipped just slightly. Instead of touching the edge of the wound, his fingers brushed against one of the glowing markings just below it. The surface was strangely warm, softer than the rest of her armored body. He jerked back immediately, whispering, "Sorry, my mistake." The reaction was instant. The Queen froze as if struck, her many eyes widened, and a deep clicking sound came from her throat. Her guards lunged forward, weapons aimed at Daniel's chest, buzzing with lethal energy. He raised his hands in panic, dropping the cloth. Wait. It was an accident, I didn't mean..." Daniel's voice cracked. The air grew heavy. The guards' antennae shook violently, a clear sign of anger. One of them hissed, "You touched the crest mark." Daniel blinked, confused. "The what?" The Queen raised a clawed hand, halting her guards before they could act. Silence fell again, broken only by the faint hum of machines. Her eyes studied Daniel with unreadable intensity. Then she spoke slowly, each word carrying weight. "You touched the mark of loyalty." Daniel's mind went blank. Loyalty? I swear, it was just my hand slipping. I wasn't trying to. The Queen's mandibles clicked in something that might have been laughter or disbelief. No outsider has ever dared touch it. Among my people, it is only done by those who vow their life to the Queen. Daniel's throat went dry. I swear I wasn't vowing anything, I was just wiping the blood. The guards muttered among themselves, their voices sharp. Some looked ready to strike, others uncertain. The Queen silenced them again with a gesture, her gaze never leaving Daniel. There was a strange glimmer in her eyes now, something between curiosity and amusement. You are either a fool, she said, or fate has guided your hand. Daniel shook his head frantically. Definitely the first one. Fool. Total fool. Please don't, punish me for clumsiness. The Queen did not answer at once. Instead, she slowly lowered her arm from her wound, exposing the cleaned cut. Her voice was calm but carried an edge of challenge. Then finish what you started. If your hand truly slipped by chance, show it again by healing with care. My guards will watch. If you mean no vow, prove it. Daniel hesitated, sweat running down his back. Every instinct screamed to run, but the guards blocked every path. There was only one choice. Keep cleaning. Keep steady. And pray the Queen believed him. He picked up the cloth again, this time holding it like it was made of glass. His movements were deliberate, slow. He cleaned the last of the blood, avoiding the glowing markings as if they were fire. His eyes stayed locked on the wound, never daring to meet her gaze again. Minutes stretched long. Finally, the wound was cleaned and sealed with a basic healing spray. He stepped back, exhaling with relief. There. Done. The Queen looked down, at her side, then back at him. Silence hung heavy again, but the guards had lowered their weapons slightly. She spoke at last. You may go, human, but remember this moment. The mark you touched will not be forgotten. Daniel nodded quickly, backing away with shaky legs. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He had survived. Barely. As he left the chamber, whispers followed him. The alien guards spoke of prophecy, of loyalty, of forbidden bonds. Daniel wished he could erase the whole incident from memory. But deep inside, he knew the Queen's words were true. The accident had started something he did not yet understand. The corridors of the outpost buzzed with rumors long before Daniel even returned to his quarters. He could hear the whispers echoing from both humans and aliens. Some voices carried curiosity, others carried fear. He had only wanted to help, only wanted to clean a wound, but now it seemed like he had done something far greater, or far worse. When he finally closed the door to his small room, he leaned against it, breathing hard. His hand still trembled from the memory of alien weapons aimed at his chest. The words of the Queen played again and again in his mind. You touched the mark of loyalty, it will not be forgotten. He buried his face in his palms. Great. Just great. Out of all the humans on this station, why me? But there was no answer. Only silence broken by the distant hum of machinery. The next morning, the outpost commander summoned him. Daniel entered the briefing room nervously, finding the commander seated across from two Valorian envoys. Their tall, insectoid forms made the room feel smaller. Their golden armor reflected the light like mirrors. Both pairs of compound eyes turned toward Daniel as if he were already guilty of something. The commander cleared his throat. Engineer Daniel, do you understand the position we are in? Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Not really. I just cleaned her wound, that's all. One envoy clicked his mandibles sharply. You did more than that, human. You touched the crest mark of our Queen. To us, that is a vow, a bond, a declaration that you belong to her. Court. Daniel's jaw dropped. Belong? No. I don't belong anywhere near her court. I was wiping blood. My hand slipped. The second envoy tilted his head slowly. Perhaps, or perhaps your people plot deeper games than we thought. Daniel raised both hands in defense. There was no game. Honestly, if you knew me, you'd know I can barely plan my own breakfast, let alone some royal scheme. The commander coughed into his fist, trying not to smile at the nervous outburst. But the situation was serious. Envoys, surely this is a misunderstanding. Daniel is no diplomat. He has no authority in human politics. That may be true, the first envoy said, but symbols have power. Our soldiers already whisper. Some call him chosen. Others call him an insult. Either way, the queen herself has not dismissed the act. Daniel felt his stomach twist. She hasn't? No, the envoy replied. She told her court she will observe you. Daniel's knees nearly buckled. Observe me? Like an experiment? The envoy's antennae twitched. Like a possible bond. Daniel turned to the commander, desperate. Sir, please, you've got to explain. This is insane. I don't want to be bonded, chosen, or anything. I just want to fix engines and drink tea in peace. The commander sighed heavily. For now, Daniel, you have no choice. Until the queen makes her decision, you are under her watch. That means you will remain near her court. Daniel groaned. So my punishment for clumsiness is more clumsiness waiting to happen? Neither envoy looked amused. That afternoon, Daniel was escorted to the alien wing of the outpost. The architecture there was different from the human-designed halls. Curved walls glistened like the inside of a shell. Soft green light pulsed along the panels, imitating the glow of Valorian hives. Strange scents hung in the air, a mix of herbs and minerals, reminding Daniel of both forests and caves at once. The guards outside the queen's chamber gave him cold stares. They did not speak, but their antennae twitched in warning as they let him through. He entered with careful steps. Queen Velara rested upright on her throne-like seat, her side now bandaged but still glowing faintly where the crest mark lay. Her many eyes locked on him at once. For a long moment she said nothing, simply watching him as though he were an insect under glass. Finally she spoke. You return. Daniel swallowed. I was told I didn't have a choice. Her mandibles curved in what might have been amusement. Few ever have when standing before a queen. He rubbed the back of his neck nervously. Look, about yesterday. I really need you to understand it was an accident. I don't know your customs. I didn't mean to touch anything important. You touched more than important, Velara said firmly. You touched sacred. That mark is shown only to those I trust with my life. My own kind hesitate before placing hand upon it. Yet you touched it without fear. Daniel almost laughed from nerves. Fear? Believe me, I was terrified. My hand slipped. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's clumsy mistakes. She tilted her head, studying him. Mistake or fate, the difference matters little. My court watches you. They believe you have chosen. Daniel groaned softly. Chosen for what? I'm not warrior. I'm not noble. I'm not anything special. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Perhaps that is why fate chose you. You expect little, so when you give, it is pure. Daniel blinked. That sounds like a compliment? Maybe? Velara leaned forward, her antennae swaying. Your people often speak of fate as accident. We do not. We believe fate places us where we must be. If you are here, if you touch the crest mark, then there is purpose, whether you see it or not. Daniel shook his head quickly. With all respect, Your Majesty, fate has very bad aim. For the first time, a low, clicking laugh came from her. Her guards stiffened at the sound, but she raised a claw to silence them. You are bold, human, or foolish. Perhaps both. Daniel sighed. That's what I keep hearing. Days passed. Daniel was required to remain close to the Queen's court, though he felt more like a prisoner than a guest. Wherever he walked, alien eyes followed. Some glared in suspicion, others studied him with curiosity. Whispers filled the halls. The human who touched the Queen, the clumsy chosen one, the insult dressed as prophecy. Even among humans on the outpost, gossip spread. His fellow engineers teased him quietly. asking when he'd be crowned as alien prince. Daniel tried to ignore them, but his cheeks burned each time. The queen, however, seemed unbothered. Each day she summoned him, not for duties, but for questions. She asked about human life, about Earth, about why humans built machines to fly when they could already walk. She asked about families, about laughter, about why humans decorated their walls with paintings of things that already existed outside. Daniel did his best to answer, though sometimes he stumbled. She listened with careful attention, her many eyes glimmering like stars. At times he forgot she was a queen. She seemed more like a curious scholar, hungry for knowledge. But then her guards would step forward, reminding him of her power. Still, not everyone accepted the strange bond. One evening, while Daniel was leaving the alien wing, 2 Valorian officers blocked his path. Their armor gleamed darkly, and their antennae vibrated with hostility. "You bring shame," one hissed. "You insult our queen with your clumsy touch." Daniel held up his hands quickly. "It was an accident, really. I keep saying that." "Accidents do not exist," the second officer spat. "Either you planned this to mock us, or fate placed you to weaken us. Either way, you are danger." They stepped closer, their shadows towering over him. Daniel's throat tightened. He could see their weapons at their sides, sharp and glowing. Before anything worse could happen, a voice cut through the corridor. Enough. It was Valara herself. She appeared behind them, her presence filling the hall with sudden authority. The officers froze, lowering their heads. She looked at them coldly. "This human is under my watch. His actions are mine to judge, not yours. Leave." The officers retreated reluctantly, their antennae twitching in anger. Daniel let out a shaky breath. Thank you. I thought I was about to be turned into dust." Valara regarded him with calm eyes. "You will face many such moments, human. Some will see you as insult, others as symbol. The path you walk is not safe." Daniel groaned softly. "I didn't even choose this path." "Perhaps," she said, her voice low and steady. "But sometimes paths choose us." That night Daniel lay awake in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. The queen's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes paths choose us. He didn't want paths. He wanted quiet work, simple days, no weapons pointed at him. But now his clumsy mistake had thrown him into the heart of alien politics, and whether he liked it or not, he was being watched. By the queen, by her court, by fate itself. The next few days passed with growing tension inside the outpost. The misunderstanding about Daniel's hand slip had not faded. In fact, it had spread wider. Rumors traveled faster than ships. Everywhere Daniel went, voices whispered behind him. Some aliens said the human was chosen by fate. Others said he was a trickster, sent to mock their queen. Even among the humans, soldiers and engineers looked at him with curious smiles, calling him the lucky one or the clumsy prince. Daniel hated the attention. He wanted to vanish into a toolbox and never come out again. But Queen Valara did not let the matter rest. She called him daily, asking questions about humans, about their strange habits, and about his own life. The more she asked, the more her court grew suspicious. They whispered that she was giving the human too much importance. Some demanded proof of his loyalty. Others demanded punishment. Finally, a decision was made. One morning, Daniel was summoned to the Queen's Hall. The chamber was brighter than before, its walls glowing with soft green light. Dozens of Valorian nobles and warriors gathered, their armor shining, their antennae twitching with interest. Daniel felt like a bug caught in a jar. At the far end, Queen Valara sat tall, her golden markings gleaming across her exoskeleton. She raised one claw and silence fell over the hall. Her many eyes studied him carefully before she spoke. "Human Daniel, you claim your touch upon my crest mark was accident. Yet many of my people doubt your words. They see insult or prophecy. They demand proof of your heart. Daniel shifted nervously. Proof? What kind of proof? The Queen's voice was calm, but heavy with meaning. A trial. The trial of trust. You will face challenges to test courage, honesty, and respect. If you succeed, you show that humans can be trusted. If you fail, my people will have their answer. Daniel's heart sank. Can I just say again it was an accident? Velara's mandibles curved faintly, almost like a smile. Words are wind, deeds are stone. The nobles clicked their mandibles in approval. Guards stepped forward, guiding Daniel toward the center of the hall. He looked back at the Queen, but her gaze remained steady. There was no escape. The first. Trial. Courage. The guards led Daniel to a wide chamber deep inside the alien wing. The room was dark except for glowing lines on the floor, forming a circle. A crowd of aliens gathered around the edges, watching closely. A booming voice declared, "First trial. Courage. The human must stand against the beast of the chamber." Daniel's mouth went dry. Beast? A gate opened, and a creature crawled into the circle. It was massive, like a cross between a scorpion and a lizard, its armored tail lashing, eyes glowing faint green. Its hiss echoed across the chamber. Daniel backed up quickly. "You've got to be kidding me," the crowd murmured, with excitement. The alien guards lowered the gate behind him. There was no way out. The beast lunged forward, claws scraping against the floor. Daniel grabbed the nearest object, a long metal pole used to mark the circle. He held it like a spear, though his hands shook badly. The creature hissed again, circling him. Daniel's heart thundered. He knew he could never match its strength. If he fought directly, he would lose. He forced himself to breathe, to think. Then he noticed something. The beast's eyes blinked slowly whenever the green floor lights pulsed. Its vision seemed weak against brightness. Daniel gritted his teeth, raised the pole, and struck the glowing floor panels hard. Sparks flashed. The creature shrieked, covering its eyes with its claws. The crowd gasped. Daniel quickly darted around the beast, tapping each glowing panel with the pole, making bright flashes. The creature roared in confusion, thrashing wildly but never striking him. Finally, it retreated, hissing, back into the gate. Silence fell. Then the crowd erupted with surprised clicks and murmurs. The booming voice declared, "Trial 1 passed." Daniel leaned on the pole, shaking with relief. "I'm going to need a vacation after this." The second trial. Honesty. The next. Challenge was held in a smaller chamber. Queen Velara herself entered this time, followed by several elders of her court. She looked at Daniel with all her many eyes. "The second trial," she said, "is honesty. Answer without lies, for lies carry great weight among my people." Daniel swallowed hard. "I'll try." An elder stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Human, why did you come to this outpost?" Daniel blinked. Because I didn't want dangerous assignments. I wanted quiet work, fixing machines. I thought it would be boring here." The crowd murmured at his bluntness. The elder tilted his head. "You admit laziness?" Daniel scratched his neck. "Not laziness, just I didn't want to fight. I thought I could be useful without guns." The Queen's eyes glimmered faintly. Another elder asked, "When you touched the crest mark, did you wish for power?" Daniel shook his head quickly. "No, honestly, I wished only that I could leave the room without being fried by your guards. I didn't even know what the crest mark was." Laughter rippled through the chamber, surprised, but not cruel. The elders exchanged glances. The Queen leaned closer. "One more question. If fate binds you to me, will you accept?" Daniel froze, every eye in the chamber fixed on him. His throat went dry. Finally, he said, "I don't know. I'm not brave or strong or wise. I'd be lying if I said yes. But I'd also be lying if I said no. I guess I'd have to see." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she said softly, "Trial 2. Passed." The crowd stirred with interest. Daniel exhaled, his heart pounding. He hadn't been clever, just painfully honest. Somehow that was enough. The third trial. Respect. The final trial was held in the ceremonial hall, lit by hundreds of glowing crystals. In the center stood a sacred artifact, a tall staff decorated with golden patterns. Valorian nobles stood in a circle chanting softly. A guard explained, "This staff is symbol of our queen's lineage. Outsiders may never touch it. The trial is simple. You must walk through the circle without disrespect." Daniel frowned. "That's it? Just walk?" The guard's antennae twitched. "Yes, but if you misstep, if you rush, if you show arrogance, the trial ends." Daniel realized it wasn't about skill. It was about humility. He took a deep breath and stepped forward slowly. The staff glowed faintly as he passed. The noble's eyes followed his every move. He resisted the urge to bow, too deeply or to make a joke. He simply walked with calm steps, head lowered slightly in respect, hands at his sides. His heart hammered, but he forced himself to stay steady. Finally, he reached the far side of the circle. Silence filled the hall. Then the queen rose from her throne. "The human has shown courage, honesty, and respect," she declared. "The trial of trust is complete." The nobles clicked their mandibles in surprise, some in approval, some in doubt, but none could deny he had passed. Daniel rubbed his forehead, exhausted. "Please tell me that's the last test. My nerves can't take any more." The queen's mandibles curved faintly. "For now." That night, Daniel returned to his quarters, collapsing onto his bed. He stared at the ceiling, replaying the day's events. Somehow, against all odds, he had passed trials he never wanted to face. But the whispers in the corridors only grew louder. To some aliens, he was still an intruder. To others, he was now a symbol of something greater. And to Queen Valara, he was a puzzle, one she clearly intended to keep studying. Daniel sighed deeply. Why couldn't my hand have just stayed steady? But deep inside, he knew the trials had changed something. Not just in the eyes of the aliens, but in himself. He had stood his ground, spoken truth, and shown respect. For the first time, he wondered if maybe fate had chosen him for a reason after all. The days after the trial of trust were anything but quiet. Daniel had hoped passing the trials would calm the aliens, that maybe they would stop watching him like he was a rare insect in a glass cage. But the opposite happened. The whispers only grew louder. Some Valorians now bowed their antennae slightly when he passed, treating him with a strange respect. Others turned away, clicking their mandibles in disapproval. To them he was still an insult, a clumsy human who had stumbled into sacred ground. Daniel felt stuck in the middle of a storm he never asked for. Wherever he went, eyes followed. And at the center of that storm sat Queen Valara, who watched him more closely with every passing day. Whispers in the court one morning, Daniel was summoned to the queen's court again. The hall was filled with nobles, their golden armor gleaming in the green light. The air was thick with tension. An elder spoke first, his voice sharp. The human has passed the trials, yes. But a trial proves only ability, not worth. He still touched the crest mark. That insult cannot be erased. Another noble stepped forward. No. He proved courage, honesty, respect. Fate guided his hand. We must accept the sign. The voices rose quickly. One side demanded punishment. The other demanded honor. Daniel stood at the center, sweating, wishing he could vanish into thin air. Finally, Queen Valara raised her claw. Silence fell instantly. Her many eyes scanned the court. You speak of punishment and prophecy, but the choice is mine, and I have not decided. Her words froze the chamber. Daniel's stomach twisted. Not decided? That meant his future was still hanging by a thread. A private talk later that evening, Daniel was called to the queen's private chamber. The guards led him through glowing halls until he stood before her throne. The room was quiet, only the hum of alien machines in the walls. Valara studied him silently for a long moment. You confuse my people, she said finally. See insult. They see prophecy. I see something else. Daniel rubbed his neck awkwardly. I see a very unlucky engineer who just wants to go home. The Queen's mandibles curved faintly. Perhaps. But tell me, Daniel, why did you protect me during the trials? He blinked. Protect you? I wasn't protecting you. I was just trying not to get eaten or embarrassed. Her eyes narrowed. You fought the beast without killing it. You showed mercy. You spoke truth even when it made you weak. That protects more than body. It protects trust. Daniel sighed. Look, I didn't mean to step into your politics. I'm not a leader. I'm not even a soldier. I just fix broken things. Velara leaned closer. Perhaps that is what we need. A fixer. Someone who repairs more than machines. Someone who repairs trust between our people. Daniel froze at her words. He had never thought of himself that way, but she seemed serious. The attack, the debate over Daniel's fate might have lasted weeks, but destiny had other plans. Late one night, alarms blared through the outpost. Red lights flashed, and the sound of weapons echoed in the halls. Daniel stumbled out of his quarters, heart racing. He heard human soldiers shouting orders and alien guards hissing commands. The outpost was under attack. Unknown ships had appeared from the void, breaking the fragile peace. Some said they were pirates, others claimed they were rival factions, unhappy with the treaty. Whoever they were, they came with fire. Explosions rattled the walls. Daniel ran toward the engineering bay, his first instinct to help the defense systems. But before he reached it, a squad of Valorian guards blocked his path. Their antennae buzzed urgently. The Queen is in danger, one said. You must come. Daniel froze. Me? Why me? You've got dozens of guards. She commanded it. The guard replied firmly. Against every instinct, Daniel followed. They led him to the central chamber where Queen Velara stood, surrounded by her warriors. Her golden markings glowed brighter in the emergency lights. When she saw him, her eyes softened. Daniel, she said, stand with me. He opened, his mouth to argue, but an explosion shook the chamber. Alien attackers stormed in, armed with glowing blades and rifles. They were not Velara's loyal soldiers. Their armor was darker, their markings different. Rebels. The Queen's guards rushed to meet them. The hall filled with the clash of weapons, the hiss of energy, and the sharp clicks of alien speech. Daniel ducked behind a pillar, panic clawing at his chest. He had no weapon, no armor, no plan. But when he looked at the Queen, standing tall, despite the chaos, something inside him shifted. He grabbed a fallen guard's shield, a round device that hummed with energy, and ran to her side. If I'm going to die, I might as well die clumsily, he shouted. Velara gave a low clicking laugh even in the middle of battle. Stand firm, human. Together they faced the attackers. Daniel raised the shield awkwardly, blocking strikes that would have reached her. He shouted warnings when rebels tried to flank. His arms ached. His legs shook, but he did not run. At one point, a rebel aimed a rifle at the Queen. Daniel threw himself in the way, the shield sparking as it absorbed the blast. The force knocked him to the ground, but he pulled himself back, up gasping. The Queen's mandibles spread wide. Loyalty, she whispered. With her guards and human soldiers joining forces, the attackers were finally pushed back. The chamber fell into heavy silence, broken only by the groans of the wounded. The aftermath. When the battle ended, the outpost was scarred but standing. Smoke lingered in the halls, and medics rushed to treat the injured. Daniel sat on the floor. Bruised and exhausted, the broken shield still clutched in his hand. Queen Velara approached, her steps slow but steady. She looked down at him, her many eyes glimmering. You stood when you could have fled. Daniel tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. I guess fate tripped me into bravery. Her mandibles curved into a faint smile. Perhaps, or perhaps you are more than you believe. The guards around them bowed their antennae. For the first time, Daniel noticed respect in their eyes. Not just curiosity, respect. The Queen's Dilemma. The next day, the alien council gathered in the Great Hall. The air was thick with debate once again. One noble hissed, "The human must be punished still. Accident or not, he broke sacred law." Another argued, "No. He defended the Queen with his life. He proved loyalty greater than many of our own." Voices rose. The council divided as before. Finally, all eyes turned to Queen Velara. She stood, tall, her golden crest glowing. Her gaze swept across her people, then rested on Daniel. He stood at the edge of the chamber, nervous, unsure if he was about to be executed or celebrated. At last, she spoke. "This human touched my crest mark, by accident. But since then he has faced our trials, he has spoken truth, he has shown respect, and when danger came he did not flee. He stood beside me. He shielded me. His actions speak louder than mistake." The hall fell silent. "I declare," Velara continued, her voice ringing with authority, "that the human is no insult. He is proof that trust between our kinds can be real. His clumsy hand has built a bond stronger than fear." Daniel nearly collapsed in relief. Some nobles hissed in protest, but others bowed their antennae in agreement. The decision was made. The Queen had chosen. That night, Daniel sat alone in his quarters staring at his hands. The same hands that had caused so much trouble. The same hands that had now saved a queen. He whispered to himself, "I was only cleaning, a wound, and now I'm part of history." But deep inside, he knew the story wasn't finished. The Queen's choice had set a new path for both humans and Valorians, and somehow, clumsy Daniel had to walk it. The day after the Queen's decision, the outpost felt different. The halls that once echoed with suspicion now carried softer sounds. Guards who had once narrowed their eyes at Daniel now greeted him with small nods. Workers no longer whispered as loudly when he walked by. Things were not perfect, but a shift had started. Daniel still felt out of place, like an accidental guest who stayed too long. Yet deep inside, he also felt something new, belonging. A quiet conversation. Queen Velara sent for him again, this time not in the throne hall but in the garden dome of the outpost. The garden was a strange mix of earth plants and Valorian flora, grown side by side under artificial sunlight. Green vines climbed alongside glowing purple stalks. Human roses bloomed near crystal-like flowers that shimmered in the air. Daniel stood there awkwardly until the Queen arrived, her golden crest shining as always. She moved with calm grace, though her many eyes watched him closely. "Your world's roses smell sweet," she said, pausing beside the plants. Daniel scratched his neck. "Yeah, we give them as gifts, to show care." Her antennae twitched. "Strange. On Valor, flowers are for warning. Bright colors tell us of danger." Daniel chuckled. "Guess even flowers argue between our worlds." The Queen tilted her head. "And yet here they grow together, different but alive in the same soil." Daniel paused at her words. He realized she was not only talking about flowers. The council's decision. Later that week, the council met once more. This time, their debate was not about Daniel's mistake, but about what came next. The attack had shown how fragile peace really was. If rebels could strike so boldly, then both humans and Valorians needed more than uneasy treaties. They needed trust. Queen Velara stood before the council, her voice strong. "We cannot build trust on fear or suspicion. We must build it on living proof. This human is proof." Many antennae twitched uneasily. Some nobles muttered about tradition, about risk, about the insult that had started it all. But others nodded, remembering Daniel's shield raised against danger. Finally, after long hours of argument, the council agreed. A new pact would be formed. Humans and Valorians would not just share an outpost. They would share responsibility, leadership, and future. And at the center of that pact stood Daniel, the clumsy engineer who had never wanted to be important. Daniel's doubt that night, Daniel sat alone in his room, staring at the ceiling. He should have been relieved. The Queen had defended him. The council had accepted him, and the alliance was stronger than before. But instead he felt heavy. He whispered to himself, I'm not a leader. I'm not special. I just tripped into all this. Memories rushed back. The accident with the crest mark, the trial, the attack. Again and again he had only been reacting, surviving, stumbling forward. Was that really enough? A knock came at the door. It was Rin, one of the younger Valorian guards who had always been curious about him. You worry too much, human, Rin said in broken English. Queen trusts you. That is enough. Daniel gave a tired smile. Trust is heavy, Rin. Heavier than armor. The guard tilted his head. Then grow strong shoulders. The simple words stuck with Daniel long after Rin left. A ceremony of unity. Days later, a great ceremony was held in the main hall of the outpost. Humans and Valorians gathered together. Banners of both species hung side by side. The hall glowed, with bright light, filled with the hum of voices in 2 languages. At the center stood a new monument, a stone carved with both human and Valorian symbols. It was to mark the beginning of the Unity Pact. Queen Valara spoke first, her voice carrying across the hall. We are 2 peoples with different skies, different ways. But today we choose to share the same path. Let this mark be more than stone. Let it be memory. Then General Harris, the human commander, spoke. For too long we feared mistakes would break us, but mistakes can also teach us. Today we do not stand apart. Today we stand together. Finally, Daniel was called. Furter, he nearly tripped on the steps, which made a few soldiers chuckle softly, but he stood tall at the monument. His heart raced. He had never spoken to so many before. I don't have big words like generals or queens, Daniel began, his voice shaking. I only know this. When I first came here, I thought I was nothing but trouble. I thought I didn't belong. But I learned that belonging doesn't mean being perfect. It means standing when it matters, even if your legs are shaking. He looked around at the sea of faces, human and alien alike. I stood for the Queen because it was right. And she stood for me when no one else did. If that's not unity, I don't know what is. The hall was silent for a moment. Then slowly, both humans and Valorians began to clap and click their mandibles together, their shared sign of respect. Daniel stepped back, his face burning red, but inside, a strange warmth grew. The Queen's gift. After the ceremony, Queen. Valara called Daniel aside. She held something in her clawed hands, a small crest made of golden crystal, shaped like her own but smaller. This is not a crown, she said, placing it gently in his hands. It is a bond mark, a symbol given only to those who stand as bridge between worlds. Wear it, and you carry more than honor. You carry duty. Daniel stared at it, his throat tight. I don't know if I deserve this. The Queen's many eyes softened. Deserve is not the question. Choice is. Will you walk this path with us, Daniel? For a long moment he hesitated. Then he nodded slowly. Yes, I'll try, I'll stand. Valara's mandibles curved in what he had learned to recognize as her version of a smile. Then you are no longer just guest. You are part of us. A new path weeks passed. The outpost grew stronger, not just in walls and weapons, but in spirit. Humans and Valorians trained together, worked side by side, learned each other's ways. There were still arguments, still stumbles, but also laughter, shared meals, and new trust. Daniel continued his work as an engineer, fixing broken machines and patching old systems. But now, when people saw him, they saw more than an engineer. They saw a symbol. He still tripped over wires sometimes. He still dropped tools and muttered to himself. But instead of mocking, the Valorians would click their mandibles and say, "Strong shoulders." Daniel laughed every time. The final moment, 1. Evening, as the artificial sun set in the garden dome, Daniel found himself standing beside Queen Valara again. They watched the human roses and Valorian crystal flowers glow together in the fading light. Strange, Daniel said quietly. A single mistake brought me here. The Queen tilted her head. Not mistake. Beginning. Daniel smiled faintly. Yeah, beginning. For the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider. He felt like a bridge, clumsy, maybe crooked, but strong enough to hold. And so, in the quiet of the garden, a human and an alien queen stood together. Two worlds, once strangers, now bound by trust. A trust born not from perfection but from choice.